We are waiting people to get in. Welcome to the webinar. We are here on Zoom and also we are streaming on all our social platforms. So we
Yeah,
are
I just
getting
got my I
started.
just got my alert. We're
Great. Hey Anna. Hey Dominic. We are
Hello,
getting in
guys.
slowly.
hello.
Just let the things go in, and we are ready to start, ready to rumble. I hope you're all energized after all this Christmas food, Christmas stuff. Tom, this is your first Polish Christmas, right?
No, it's my third. It's my third. I thought I was
My
going to get
third.
back to
Oh,
the.
wow. You're already
Yeah, it's three
experienced
is.
then.
I mean, this was very light. This was only one day, but no, the plan was we were supposed to go to the U.S. This Christmas to my parents in Florida. You know, nice warm weather for Christmas. It was all planned out, and then
Yeah, but like I
and
suppose
then it
everybody
then it
had a
all went
bunch of
away.
plans.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
things. So I can't complain too
yeah.
much. But yeah, third Polish Christmas. It's it wasn't like the normal Polish. It wasn't the full, like we were talking before, the full 3 days of fish and a lot of fish, a lot of herring and cod.
Cool, cool. So, Przemek, Yulia, welcome, guys. We will have a chilled Christmassy style today because we just have just want to you know sit down and talk about B2B. How was this year? How like what are the plans for the next year? So before we get started, I just want to share with you a bit my screen and um, drive this whole conversation through. I see a lot of people joining mainly from our audience in Poland, but we also have Yulia in Belarus, right? Hello,
Right.
Yulia.
Greetings from Belarus.
And we have Przemek in Krakow, so that's great. And I am from Romania now, in Transylvania, in the middle of the country. So, guys, today I really want to have it like super chilled. We have few topics in our agenda. I'll just go through these type of topics. So we will talk about different things depending on what questions you guys have. But account-based marketing, lead nurturing, marketing automation, B2B content marketing, HubSpot stuff, or any other marketing automation, paid advertising, and stuff like tracking and analytics. So we are ready to get your questions. We will most probably make sure that you can also join the conversation here on Zoom if you have questions. So, but I know that we get a lot of distraction in this period, so it would be great if you are here and you start to close these tabs, and even if you watch it later on, have the moment of now. Ask questions and try to put things in action, because if we don't put them in action, then obviously all the talks and everything we do here, it will be in vain. But before we get into it, my name is Romeo. I'm managing Man Digital, and I have three great panelists here with me from our team, and I will let them introduce themselves. So obviously, ladies first, and then Tom and Przemek. So Yulia, tell us
Thank you.
about you. What are you doing in Man Digital, and so on?
Thank you for being such a gentleman. Hi everyone. I'm Yulia. I recently joined Man Digital as a content marketer, and before that, I was mainly doing like in order of appearance. I was doing PR, I was doing SEO, and a little bit of social listening. So it's kind of a wide background, but I'm here joining Man Digital on this exciting B2B journey. And I'll be happy to answer your questions and chat basically around anything B2B related or anything you want to ask. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Thanks a lot. Przemek, Tom, any of you?
Okay,
I You
go
can
on,
go,
Tom, please.
Shemek, please. No, please.
Okay, let it be me. So, hello guys, good to see you. I am Przemek. I am responsible for operations in Man Digital. So I'm really the guy on the pragmatic side. So I rather find the path unless not think the path. So I try a lot of stuff with our clients and with Man Digital itself. So this is what I do on a daily basis. And my background comes from doing my own startups, being also a partner of other companies as well, and eventually also be a head of marketing for tech companies, mainly before in the travel industry, and now also partnering with Romeo to move on with B2B tech industry. So really glad that we can help B2B companies grow.
Great. Thank you. Tom.
Hey, hi, I am Tom. So I am here at Man Digital as sort of a senior partner, sort of senior strategy partner, I should say. I've got a lot of experience in B2B marketing, mostly or almost all in the US market, financial services and mortgage. So working a lot in more of the CRM space and, sales enablement, marketing automation, building funnels and so forth. And so, yeah, that's how we're all working together with, Man Digital clients to help kind of set these high level strategies.
Cool. Thanks. So now I would really like to understand a bit who you guys are. So I have a poll here, so I can just pull it off. So yeah, now you should have it. I just want to understand what describes you best, like what, where are you guys joining from, and so on, so you can better understand the audience. Maybe we can just adapt the whole webinar based on that. I hope that like I see that the questions are coming in. So I see people obviously from the tech industry, CEOs of software houses, SaaS companies, in marketing teams, and from different smaller businesses. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. I just wanted to understand a bit. Here are some of the results just for us to understand. Okay, great. So guys, if any of you would like to start with some questions and jump in, you are more than welcome to jump in. I can allow you to talk, like to promote you here as a panelist. So you can also join us. Or if you want to jump in to talk, just let us know. In the chat, you can just write the questions if you want, or I can get you live. Before that, we started to go into some frequent asked questions, and we prepared some slides regarding that. So I see here already set asking us, curious if you have any preview trends for 2021 in B2B marketing. And it's funny because this is one of the questions that actually we had here in the slide. So what's trending in this time now? So we were actually talking about this before, and you guys can correct me. I know that you, Przemek, had some podcasts. You were listening to that and had some ideas. And before the call, actually, we talked about that. And one of the things I believe it's very important in these pandemic times is the security and the brand, right? This is what Przemek, you were also saying that you see in the space. What do we mean by security? Unfortunately, having this pandemic, we saw that companies really need huge relevance in terms of what kind of solutions they will purchase. So I can give you an example. If you are a software development organization and you are developing a particular digital health system, you most probably will not be that believed, or you will not have that credibility if you would go into logistics. So having this brand awareness about and companies understanding that you do digital health, that brings a huge a security for that company who is looking for digital health in solutions. And this is something that throughout the this call we will talk a lot about the niche and this importance of being known as a brand for something specific. So I think this is the one of the trends that I see, and more the focus of the actual stakeholders in the buying process. This is something that was very much neglected in this in the past. So we see that also pandemic, or also the whole budgeting, because we are shrinking the budgets because we want to make very clear decision because of the risk management that these companies are having. They are involving more stakeholders in the buying process, which means that content wise you might want to make sure you are building the relevant content for each uh, stakeholder in the buying process. But we will go more in depth into this, because another questions that we had, and this is a never-ending story. It's what should we do? Should we do the inbound or the outbound? Tom, like this is like one of the most common questions that I saw in all the B2B conferences or all the webinars. Like, what's your 5 cents on this?
My sense of this, so right, obviously, if you could do one perfectly, right, you would choose inbound. Because if you can execute inbound the right way, if you can be like HubSpot or Buffer, right, and just have all of this brilliant content and become an expert in your domain, and all of your stuff is hyper discoverable, and you're on the first page of Google for 30 things. Yeah, you do that all day, right? But that's, as we know, that's not the reality of inbound, right? The reality is, people tend to like, put out a ton of content and then get really discouraged when, oh, how are we not on the first page? How are we not top 3 for this? And it's just sort of, it becomes this, kind of a lot of the companies I know that have done it feel very defeated by it. So to me, for B2B, it's a cop out, but I see it as more outbound is the strategy for, obviously you can pick who you're going after, right? So you can sort of pre-qualify everyone, versus inbound, even when you're doing it, a lot of online leads end up being not as qualified, right? Because it's just the nature of people just randomly finding you. So with outbound, you're doing a much better job of qualifying your prospects, and you can sort of control who you want to have conversations with. You're not wasting your time. And the ideal scenario is you're able to, create inbound content, right? Like some really long tail niche inbound content that you can rank for. And then, the assets that you then create, you can use to support your outbound activities, right? So when you do start to talk to that person who is great, the purchasing director for this company, or, the person who's in charge of, product development, when you have that, when you're able to have that conversation, you can use some of the materials you've created for inbound around specific topics to support it. But it's just to go all in on inbound is risky, and it's also, you don't want to go all in on outbound either.
Mm-hmm. Guys, like any of you guys in the audience, if you have any answers to these questions, feel free to jump in. I see here Anya Bivanis, whom I old partner. We did a lot of marketing stuff together. So Anya, feel free to jump in whenever you feel like. But just to go on with the next question, because trying to jump like move here between slides, we have another question related to content marketing for B2B tech, and this is something that Przemek, you worked a lot in. So I would like to understand a little bit from you, like, with all this buzz that we have and everybody talks all the time about, since I am doing marketing and started with Anya doing SEO, we always hear about content marketing. So what's trending for the next year? What's wrong? What's good? What should we focus on when we are in tech business?
Mm-hmm. So I would start maybe with probably giving some context, but if there is a chance that someone can also have a specific question in regards to the content, I always want to make it as practical as possible. So guys, like if you have some related questions specifically to the content, you struggle with some content parts, like please feel free to just put out the chat questions, because then it will be much more probably relevant for everyone in the room.
Mm-hmm.
But to give some context, like that's true that since I also was in the marketing, like there was this buzz around content is the king, right? And suddenly next year content was that, but eventually not. Content was still the king. So I at the beginning came from B2C industry, where content was also really important for getting more traffic and getting, especially in the e-commerces, you couldn't get the SEO parts, you couldn't get the results for product pages because it was just too competitive. Plus, you would not get any kind of links to that. So we needed to create the content. And now, when I jumped in more into the B2B field recently, like since 2-3 years, I see that the content here. One thing is that what Tom said. It's really interesting to do the content for the sake of inbound, so getting the traffic which is connected to the B2C in a way. But I think that now I see that this content more and more is actually really something that we are talking internally in Man Digital a lot, that it's not just content marketing. So it's more like buyers enablement content. So it's actually both for, and also sales enablement content. So the more and more content, I think that the impact comes for the sales and for buyers to ease the process of buying, and for sales to help them sell, instead of just bringing traffic, bringing leads, and do this kind of stuff. So I think that this is one of the contexts that in Man Digital we see a lot, that we produce much more content to give sales guys a reason to start the conversations, a reason to talk with the customers, a reason to get touch points with the customers, not just to get traffic and some leads. So this would be maybe some kind of a context for the content. But the same thing we see, everyone struggles, right? Especially in the tech industry, everyone struggles how to produce this high quality tech content, because our developers or our staff doesn't want to write. So there are plenty of ideas probably how we can overcome it, but I don't want to prolong this monologue. So guys, I really would love you to just speak up.
Well,
and ask
I
some
was
questions.
going to ask you, what do you think, right? If you've got to focus on one, like, sort of like content bucket, one sort of element of the content to create, what would you say is the most sort of like bang for your buck, highest reward? I mean, would you say, my instinct is case studies? I don't know, that seems to be like a popular one, but what would you suggest?
So I think that we had this discussions also with Yulia around case studies, right? That the one thing is the case study, but the second, I don't remember the exact quote, but how was it, Yulia, that with the case study quality, or how good is the case study?
Yeah, so the exact quote was kind of this, idea I got from one of our internal discussions was, your marketing is as good as your case studies.
Yeah.
Meaning that like this is something that we talked about internally, just how many tech businesses, absolutely brilliant products, absolutely brilliant execution, but how many of them have actually good, really thoroughly planned out, nicely laid out and designed and to the point case studies that emphasize the business value and like the business component of things for future clients instead of the technical component so much. So yeah, this was something we discussed, but also I just wanted to quickly pick up from the things you said, Przemek, and also Tom said, in terms of this inbound versus outbound and combining the two, and also repurposing the content for different things. Like just recently also we talked about this, customizing, personalizing the content, the inbound content, to fit specific target accounts, if we're talking about account-based marketing, or just generally as you go on with nurturing the lead, as you go on from marketing qualified to sales qualified, or if you're talking in account-based marketing terms, like it's such an effective, easy, low effort thing to take a content asset that you created for inbound, and then customize the title or customize the intro, customize the note, make it personalized, make it, if you're planning to use it in outbound as part of account-based marketing efforts. But also in terms of like really effective, like the jackpot of content marketing, input versus reward. I think case studies are super brilliant, but also why not compile case studies into an ebook, like what Man Digital did with the success stories of software houses? Or why not, like it's such a playground for different combinations and different things to experiment with and see what works best.
Yep. I think that Aja joined us, wanted to say something. Wasn't it the case?
I put it by mistake. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, Anya.
Yeah,
I
so
think one of the biggest learnings that I had with content in B2B is stop focusing on SEO and focus on what is the content that you build that can really work for your sales guys, that you can use for your, let's say, inbound strategies. Like for example, what we do when we do email sequences, and we are actually doing outbound email sequences with our contacts, one of the follow-up emails is actually coming around not to follow up on, hey, you didn't reply my email, or please reply my email, or here's a reminder about the email that I just sent you before. Like not these type of follow-ups, but more taking the content that you build already and sending them as you really believe that this is relevant for them. And also using the content of other organizations, not necessarily yours. Like podcasts are getting more and more trendy, but and we know that for some time now we are doing this live event and webinar video that we will put later on also in podcast, so on. But imagine that you are listening to a podcast, you know your audience, you know your buyer, right? And because you know that buyer, because you had conversations with that buyer, and in that podcast you might have some super insight that will be really relevant for the buyer or for even the client. And then you just send this as a follow-up email, or you just send this content to him and say, hey, Marta, I was listening to this podcast from minute 15 to minute 20. It's really relevant for your problem that you're having. I mean, that's the type of personalization that we are going through, because the content that we have today is so much bullshit. So the whole content that is out there is people copying other people. It's just curation, right? It's a curation over a curation and over curation. Because what you do when you do a blog post, you go on Google and you start to understand who are those
It's a copy of a
guys
copy
who
of a
are
copy. Yeah.
writing on that, right?
Yeah.
Who copied somebody else, who
Right. Right.
copied somebody else, and so on, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what everybody does. Let's be honest with the content marketeers. But when you personalize at the level of, I know you have this problem, and this is what I heard, or this is what we did, and only read this part. You don't
Yeah.
need to read the whole
Right.
thing.
It's like you're so bang on about that. So I've actually done exactly that. It was with someone who was already a client, um, but it was so well received. So it was there was actually a case study in the book The Challenger Sale. If you're not familiar with it, fantastic book. I forget who wrote it, but it was they're in the medical supplies industry, and there was just an example in it that was just so perfect. And and so like to get it out of the Kindle was kind of a pain in the ass to kind of do it for him, right? To like save some PDF pictures and stuff. But I sent it to him, and it was like he loved it. He was thrilled. We ended up having a meeting with like his CEO to go over it. But like that was sort of exactly because it was so tailored, and it was you anytime like whether it's a client or a prospect, if there's somebody who's thinking about their business on their behalf, like for free, right? That's and then like giving them something. Hey, I was thinking of your business, and it's not like your point, this bullshit, whatever article, blah blah blah. It's like no, I actually like was reading a book. I wasn't on the internet, and I saw something that was like
Yeah.
relevant. It was, remember those things, right? It wasn't a 2,000 word Medium post. It was an actual like a
Mhm.
book with pages. And I think this is a really insightful part of it. I think it has a lot to do with your business. Yeah, that's a moment. And at the end of the day, B2B, the way to stand out is to kind of create those moments. So yeah, it's a really good point, Romeo, that you bring up.
And I think maybe Yulia, you can tell us more about your experience about social listening. But I think that's also something that will really be a focus in 2021, because by listening, by understanding what are these industries, and what in each industries, the stakeholders, the people involved in the buying process, or the people involved in those businesses are talking about, and building content on the spot on that. Because imagine a bit, how do you do today research about the content? That you do some content of somebody who wrote it like 3-4 months ago, right? Most probably. Or okay, if you are really good content, maybe you have Gartner that did it 1 month ago, right? But if you really want to be in I call it real-time content, you really need to make sure you're bringing the content for the issues that are happening today, right? Like the pandemic teaches us that the information will flow so fast that if you don't have it right away, so social listening is getting more and more into that. And I know that you, Julia, you did a really great project with the airlines, I suppose, as far as I know. So if
Yeah.
you can tell us more about that project, and how do you think that can be replaced, that idea can be replaced also in the B2B?
So basically, this project, this research, it was a social listening study done by my colleague, and what the study was aimed at is, doing a social listening analysis of different airlines. Because we're talking about, like, there's so many things to be taken into account when we want to grow brands, and when we want to really be in sync with the industry and with the customers. And social listening is just a brilliant, very effective, fully automated way to basically listen in on all the conversations that are happening. And not only all the conversations, because there's a lot of conversations on the internet, but you actually go and see who the opinion leaders are and who the decision makers are within an industry. And I think like it's really valuable what you said, Romeo, about this whole the buying process and the decision-making process in B2B, especially like in B2B, obviously, we're dealing with buying committees. And so buying committees on average, this is like 3 to 5 people, right, for organizations. And if you really want to create highly personalized content for them that is relevant, that is real time, that brings real time value, like it's really, really valuable to use social listening to see what is buzzing not only in the industry that you're targeting, but specifically with these decision makers that go into the buying committee. So if this is something you can do, then absolutely, this is just great when you can see what, like, this is basically espionage. This is, but in legal terms, like I think this is just a great intel that you can get absolutely legally, and it's the most cool thing is that it's real time intel, so you can really create real time valuable content for the decision makers that you're targeting.
And
Anna joining us?
here is a question here from Anya. Maybe for you, Przemek, you can go more in details. How you can tell us more about how the teams look like exactly.
Super, love. We go into questions. So the team structure, like first of all, I think that the strategist part is really important. So someone who understands the content from the more strategic perspective. And this is what everyone here is saying all around, right? The personalization, the relevance, the buying committee. So for example, we can give an idea how we do it for ABM programs. So while we do the ABM programs, and let's take the pharma industry, because this is something we recently were deploying, and it's really bright example. So currently, like we know that they want to acquire, they do a marketing services, so same as we do, but for pharma industry. And what we know is that they want to target pharma enterprise industries, and there are head of marketing who are more strategic level, and then there are brand managers who are more responsible for performance in these organizations. So while we start with the content, we have to think, okay, what kind of pains, what kind of needs, what kind of goals and KPIs these guys have, and also what we said here is the relevance to up to the moment, right? So we want to understand what are their problems that they have currently right now. And one of these is that we knew, and we don't get it from the research, we get it from the research online, we get it from talking to the clients, plus we get it from talking to the sales. And we have some assumptions. And eventually what was the outcome is, for example, that they have an issue that the field sales is not working anymore for these pharma companies. And this head of marketing, and these brand managers who are responsible for the field guys who are selling and working with them are not anymore available, right? So one of the messaging that we do and one of the content that we produce is that we need to tackle this issue. So and then we distribute the content on each stage. So what is the stage where they search for the problem, right? They notify the problem, they notice the problem. So for example, can digital marketing replace the field sales, right? And it's something that really resonates with them. So we tackle the problem by that. And then they probably search for solutions. So they search for the frameworks, how to deploy like fully digital strategy for pharma in 2021. So this is the content that we produce for them. And eventually we also go deeper. It's not just the content to get the lead, but it's also the content. Okay, what if we get on the call with them? Like, how do they decide whether we are the guys to work with them? Like, what kind of criteria do they need? Do we need to match so they fit us? So this content is being built by the content strategists, and it's more about the strategic approach. And then there's a writer who eventually starts to write this stuff based on what content strategists decides that should be done. And then there is a design, and I feel that a lot of people are neglecting the design a lot, and like showing the specific stuff in a visual way makes a lot of difference. And then what most of people don't do, it's the distribution, and it's completely different than writing or designing or publishing, right? You have to distribute, do the outreach, for these articles, so it reaches the audiences. So you need to give it to the sales, you need to give it to the person who comes to the communities, you need to give it to the person who will put it in the newsletter, anchor it to all the stuff you currently have. And ideally, if you really want to, you can also have the SEO person who is just working on actually building the links and building the domain authority. So those articles that you are producing are getting ranked. So I would say strategist, writer, designer, distribution and outreach person. And if you want to, you can add the SEO part as well.
But also an interesting observation that comes from Anya's comment is the whole sales and marketing alignment, right? And how you involve sales, how you might involve sales even in the content strategy process and like the workflow, and how early is too early to involve sales if we're talking sales and marketing alignment and really syncing up the strategies and thinking about the content that will, be both sales enablement and marketing enablement.
Yeah, and like that to me, I don't know, maybe it's just nature of the places that I've worked in my career, and and just how I've kind of run marketing departments, and then how the clients I've had. But like, to me, if you have to talk about sales and marketing alignment, it's like that's a problem already. Like for me, it never even comes up. Like it shouldn't even be it shouldn't even be a thing. It should be like it's sales / marketing. Like it's marketing, right? It's not. If they're in different buckets and different silos, it's a problem. So for me, right, it's like you said, Yulia, it's never too early. You should be talking about what type of content, like the head of sales, not even the head, like the actual people who are talking to customers. Like those are the ones like, I don't need this. What did you give me this for? I don't need this. I just need a one sheet. I just need a pricing one sheet that's going to have like these bullets on it. And like, that's all people ask for, right? It's like, it's just don't give me, blah, blah, blah.
And also ideally customer support, right? So you want feedback from all of the people who interact with the clients.
Yeah, that's true.
So here's a question from Pavel. He's asking us, what kind of tools for outbound marketing are the best fit for software houses these days? So what are the tools for outbound marketing that are best fit for software houses? So Pavel, you need to give us a little bit more context here. Are you using this for promoting content? Are you using this for going after it's just like your cold outreach? Like what exactly it is? So I would make a supposition. If it's not true, you'll let us know. How to reach clients. So my supposition is that you would make a list like the classical, right? Like you will make a prospecting, and then based on this prospecting, you will start to put it in an outbound tool and then just mail it out to them, correct? Like I make that supposition because this is something that we see very, very often. And if that's the case, my answer is that there are a lot of tools, but none of them should be used in this case in this way, mainly because you need to have a brand awareness, and you need to have you need to combine that inbound with outbound. So if you would do only pure outbound and just scraping LinkedIn and then just emailing people, first of all, it's kind of a gray area, so it's not really legal. But there are tools like Woodpecker who would close their eyes and they will let you upload a lot of emails and just send emails out. There will be tools, even HubSpot, right? Like they will ask you like, okay, did you got this list? Let's say, did the people that you are emailing, did they give you the consent? It's okay to email them. So what I would suggest is to start building ads first and start building some kind of lead magnets, and some kind of content that is really, really needed by that niche. And based on the opt-ins and based on that, you create some lead nurturing, some kind of, let's say, outbound activities only to the people that opted in for that material. And what Przemek said before, it's all about the distribution. So start building some kind of content promotion of those materials, right? Like of those lead magnets, and then you can, in that way, you can use tools like Woodpecker, Interseller, HubSpot,
Lemlist,
Mailshaker,
yeah,
Lamlist, so on. Like
Outreach,
the
all
list
those.
can go on, right? But please, please be aware of the um, shiny object syndrome, right? The shiny object syndrome is when you see a very fancy tool or a hack or something, and you want to jump in it. So you also try that hack, you also try that tool, but there is no context in the background with the whole strategy. So yeah, I
I
hope
think that there is this
I
also.
extended a little bit the question, but yeah.
I may add just that probably those are all these also reverse IP tools that you can check the domains and outreach and stuff like this if they don't have,
Correct.
if they haven't opted in. So as Romeo said, like
Albacross, for example.
yeah, there are a lot of these kind of ways how we can do this. And Romeo is, yeah, if you would PM him, like there are at least 50 kind of that tools. But like what we also, I think, and it really works, what we want to educate on is that if we do outbound, and I really see it much more working with when we do the execution for the clients, is we just do the outbound for education content. So we get the touch points, and eventually when they opt in, we start to sell anything. So we don't actually try to sell on outbound. If it's outbound, then we try to educate, provide value, and eventually if someone opt in, then there is a chance that we start selling. So cutting this, and I coming from B2C space, like in B2C, you created one content and it usually qualified to sell. So the path was really, really short. And in B2B, like the path of sales process and the awareness and building authority is much longer. And like people tend to really shorten it to this, let's just find a person, let's just outreach, tell them what we do, and assume that, I don't know, you have enough authority to sell at that moment.
Hmm? Cool. Thanks a lot. I hope it helped. Yeah, cool. So I just want to go a little bit into the learnings from 2021. So guys, I just want you to prepare your questions on that. But before that, we have here also Dominic. So Dominic is asking, what are the most valuable advantages of small software companies or starting ones in the market? How to compete with the big ones and dozen of references? How do you identify the niche? Tom, you want to take this one? So this is small
Yeah,
house.
yeah. I mean, like the small, right? Like to me, you sort of just like lean into small, right? Like don't try to, don't be like the what is it, the puffer fish, right, that blows itself up to make itself look bigger, right? Or one of these bull toads. Just be the size that you are and use that to your advantage, right? I mean, you can use that to, to go with the fish analogy more. Let a client know, hey, look, you're going to be a big fish in a small pond if you come to us, right? Like you're going to get all the attention. You're going to be, yeah, you can go to these guys. They're great. They're awesome. They're probably going to throw some junior people on your account or whatever. Like, just play up that you're small and nimble and can change on a dime and switch things up, which the bigger shops just can't do. They've got their protocols. They've got their way to do it. And if you're talking to the right size client, and I'm a big believer, and I approach this when I'm on the client looking for, an agency or resource, I always look for people of the same, who are kind of in that same range that I'm in, or the company is that I'm in. I don't want somebody who's too big. I don't want some too small. I want that Goldilocks, like, oh, okay, you're kind of mid-size. You're about right. You're where we are. That's who I want to work with. So as you find those people and those clients that are, the smaller, mid-sized, newer companies, start with them, because they're going to be attracted to you. They're going to they're going to recognize themselves in what you're doing. And you're just going to have a much more natural conversation, and you're going to be much happier versus trying to be something that you're not, as you go after, a Lions, or some department in Samsung or something. I don't know, that would be my advice. And as far as identifying the niche, I mean, that's kind of specific to you. I mean, in what it is you're doing, but I'm 100% a huge believer, especially early on, like Niche Down. That's another really good book, Niche Down. If you haven't read that, that's a great one on just like not being scared of everyone wants to be everyone to everything. We can do that. Just like, oh no, we can't do that. We can't do that. But yes, we can do this. That's exactly what we do. Work with us. Um,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think also like there's a lot of talk about authenticity over the brand, right? So and I think that it ties nicely back to what you said, Tom, about this whole, if we're a small company, we can afford to be authentic, and we can
you're
afford to
right.
be flexible and easy, and that's a big selling point. And I think that's that's something that you can absolutely use in your marketing very generously.
Right. And it is going back to authenticity, right? And it's like, you have what these bigger companies, like you go to these large companies and you go to their, they've got, 80 employees at this point, and they still have they put everyone on their about us page. It's like everyone is on there, and they've got the dog. Oh, the company dog. They're trying to want to be like, but you're not a small company anymore. You're like this huge, multi-million euro, whatever, how many a year, like that's not you anymore. It's kind of hollow. Like when you're small, you can be that. You can be, yeah. It's just the six of us and the dog is literally the reality. So yeah, roll with it.
And I think you
Dominic,
just,
I hope that
yeah, maybe just one
we
cent.
answered it.
You just have to be careful when you write, like,
Mhm.
how do you identify the niche, right? Like, unless you are a really great like consultant from McKinsey, like being, able to see dozens of businesses and then understand the market and say, okay, this is the place where I should be. This is the market that should be great. So I will build resources to get these competences to fit into this market, and I will build business in that. Like then you can identify it, right? But if you're not, you probably just need to find it based on what kind of competences you currently have and what clients did you work with, and you just did great for them. So you just need to find the other ones that are the same, and it means just execute and look what kind of clients come to you. Uh, because if you will keep thinking, like it might not go too far unless you have a really great consulting knowledge like these McKinsey guys.
Yeah, and another 2 cents from me. Like what really helps is defining your ideal customer profile, and that's basically what Przemek was talking about. And it comes both from your current clients, the most successful of your current clients, the happiest of your current clients, or if you're completely new and only starting out, looking at your market, segmenting your market to the tiniest pieces that really have the companies which are the perfect fit for you. So ideal customer profile. Yeah, and you can dive into that, the ICP concept, and that's really helpful in identifying the target account, specifically in account-based marketing, but also the very niche that you need to be targeting.
Thanks, Julia, for that, because actually Anna is asking us like, what are the most effective methods of defining the actual target group for the product? So I know that you, Przemek, you are working a lot with this um, in identifying part, especially in account-based marketing. So maybe you can answer Anna's question
I
on
can't
that.
see the question. Could you once again repeat it?
What are the most effective methods of defining the target group for the product?
Yeah. Most effective for the
Methods.
product methods for the product. Do we like Anna? Are you with us in the chat? Just let me know if you are here.
Yes,
So,
she's with us.
so do you mean the product, meaning that it's not a service, it's a product, meaning like SaaS or these kind of stuff? Do we talk about this, or we talk about services, B2B services?
Anna, if you want to get on, just tell us or write us here. But yeah. But let's
And
suppose Przemek
She says it's for
is
an
a SaaS.
application.
application, okay.
Mhm.
For an application. Yeah, so I think that this is this as a B2B, services marketing, it's a little bit different, but I can probably just maybe reference to my experience from also building startups and all this lean startup methodology when you just when you do the product market fit. So like what they, and I believe this is the thing, the most effective way is build hypothesis on this model canvas, which you probably really know well because you did all of this stuff and you know pretty well the lean model. And it's figuring out, putting the hypothesis, what could be the product, what could be the audience for this, because they have some problem and we suppose that we can solve it by that solution. And then you go into the market, you test it, you do the MVP, and if it doesn't work, then you change the hypothesis, and once again you get out of your room and test it. And if you see the traction, so I think that a lot of people forget about the traction at that moment of product market fit. So you have to do both. You have to do the hypothesis, build the application, get enough traction to verify it. And if it doesn't work, just, once again, iterate. So I don't know any better way to do
Yeah,
it.
and
I mean, I think with
and-
in this instance with an app, you kind of have somewhat of a luxury where, assuming you're not inventing an app that is just like breathtakingly unique, that there are no, there's nothing competitive on the market. You've probably got, 3 to 4 good competitors that at least you can conduct, right, your own competitive market research on. And so, okay, this is the target audience who's after this. And maybe by even conducting that, you can then see a subset that's underserved, right? That is like, oh, well, maybe then, okay, these people seem like, could also be interested, but all of these top competitors aren't actually going after them. They're just going after enterprise. No one's really looking at, maybe freelancers, assuming you've got some B2B app. So then maybe you realize, okay, great, that's, that becomes the target demo we're going to go after and hypothesize. And then you step into, what Przemek's talking about of your, test and iterate.
And I think that we haven't
and,
actually
and
yeah, please, Romeo.
just wanted to say that many times this is what we do actually here, with when we start to run account-based marketing. Is very similar to trying to find out which target group works best for that solution or that product. And what you are actually doing is you come up with a hypothesis. You look at the TAM, SAM, SOM, which is like total addressable market, serviceable market, and obtainable market. And then what you do is that you just based on the customer insights that you had, and this is the cooperation that you need to have with someone who is in that market, who knows a lot about that product. So if you are in digital health, you need to have an engineer, or you need to have someone who worked, I don't know, 10 years, 5 years in digital health to really understand that niche. As soon as you did that, you go to the sales guys and say, okay, you guys maybe talked already to someone in digital health, or you understand the market and see what are the buyers biggest needs, biggest pains, right? So then with all this information, and maybe you have the luxury also to interview some of your potential clients, if you have that, you start to build up some kind of hypotheses, right, around your target's needs. And because you have this hypothesis, you can start build some solutions that application can solve for their problems. And then it's just marketing. At the end of the day, you go out, you build ads, and you do the USP, unique selling proposition. You copyright, you start to communicate this solution and you'd start to understand, okay, which communication worked for which target group. So this, obviously, depending on your budget, depending on your sophistication of your target audience, can take more or less. But it's all about going out there and really understanding what is sticking, right? And this is, at the end of the day, bottom line, is what we do with what we do in Man Digital with our clients, right? Like, we identify the market, we build the ICPs and the journeys, and we start to bring traffic to some landing pages where they promise to solve these problems that these guys have. And then we see what sticks, and then we start the conversation. It's not rocket science. It's called not rocket science. It's all about conversations, right?
Yeah, and also something
So
something back from my social listening days, where it's like Tom said, that you're likely to have several competitives of the same size and of the same really of the same scope. And if you can listen in on their audiences and what they're saying, and like this is more applicable to B2C, that's true, but you can also like uncover B2B insights for this. If you monitor their brand names, you can see what kind of conversations are going on around their brand names, and what kind of issues people bring up in these conversations, because there's really a lot people share online about that, and it's like one of the ways you can go.
Yeah, and if it's an app, right? Similarly, go read reviews. What do the
Yeah.
1-2 star reviews say? Like, where are they failing? What are they not? Or when somebody's 4 stars, oh, I love it, but it doesn't do this. Oh, if it integrated with my calendar, it would be perfect. You can you get like your free customer research.
Yeah,
True.
I've just pasted this customer development model, which I believe is really nice, and this whole book is this lean startup, and there is this stage of customer development, and I think it's all about this in startups. So and the interviews are a big part of this. So maybe it's gonna help.
great. So I just want to go to our last questions, because slowly we are getting at the end of this
Oh,
webinar.
geez.
I just want
Oh, we are.
yeah, I know when you talk about B2B marketing and you're
Yeah,
into it, it's time flies.
Nice.
So guys, what is the two questions? What's the learning of 2020, no, 2020, and what do you see like as a next step for 21? So yeah, whoever wants to get into it,
For me,
feel free.
for like 20, like when I talk my big, and it's marketing, but it's like at a macroeconomic level. To me, looking at like this black swan event of COVID-19 that we had, um, world recession occurs. And I'd always thought in my head, the next recession that comes, everyone's going to realize that like Google and Facebook, these tech giants, right? They're actually just ad companies, right? Like Google is like 80% revenues ad spend or something, and similarly Facebook. And when a recession hits, I was kind of like, they're really going to take it. And then a recession hit, and they really didn't, And so it was that, to me, was this huge takeaway of, wow, okay, because when 2007, the internet and digital marketing and everything wasn't nearly as mature, and to see like a massive recession hit, and to watch like these technology companies kind of take a hit but rebound really quickly, was eye-opening to me. That economically, like, there's now been this big shift. Like tech, there is no like tech industry anymore. It's just like industry, like that is the industry, is technologies now, not like, to me, it's driving everything. Was really eye-opening. From a more like narrow level, and this is going to sound self-serving, giving like the ABM aspect of kind of Man Digital, but to me, it was the year like ABM really became mainstream. I think probably a big function of live events just evaporating. And so you had this B2B sales world really like, shit, what do we do with our salespeople now? We can't send them places. And, everyone, even without even kind of recognizing what they're doing, all the clients I work with now, like, it's just they've kind of naturally, instinctually gone towards this, okay, fumbled their way into figuring out that they need to be doing account-based marketing and being more strategic towards their approach. So to me, that was great. That was a big takeaway, that we've gone through in the buyer's journey of awareness, consideration, decision. I think now the B2B world has gone through their awareness stage with ABM, and now it's, for folks like us, it's great because you don't have to explain the whole, 2021. The takeaway is we're not going to have to explain to people what ABM is. They're going to understand it. And now they're just going to be considering, okay, how am I going to do it? The question no longer is, should I do it? The question is now, how do I do ABM? So that's my big, B2B marketing takeaway from the year and the future.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Yulia, Przemek, any of you want to go with it?
Maybe like for me, like I don't feel like so big of a difference like from the past to this year. Like probably all this digitalization and stuff is happening, but what I think is it's going to happen, and you should just take into consideration is that LinkedIn is now, I suppose, and from what we see, is still underpriced. So you can get, especially as a B2B business where your customer lifetime value is so huge, like from the ad spend, from what you do in LinkedIn, you can get a lot of revenue. And probably in a few years, it's going to be flooded like all the other social medias, and it will be much harder. So if you are not succeeding now in LinkedIn, I suppose you're just doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the final words for me in terms of this whole thoughts, that's something, that's a learning that I need to implement for myself, and I would love to really get super efficient at this. But the whole repurposing content for me, because I'm a content marketer, but it really like increasing the lifetime value of what you produce, the assets of what you produce, and for me that's content wise. But I understand that it can be many different aspects in a tech business, but really focusing on getting the most out of the things that you already have, with personalization, with little, the touch of customization, like anything you can do to give a long life to the assets that you already have, because there's a lot of work that goes in there. So that's something that's a personal learning for me, but maybe that's also helpful and valuable to other people watching this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So in my view, and sales is dying. This is my learning for 2020. Sales is dying, and it will slowly die because people don't need anymore to be overwhelmed. And I'm saying this. I'm 35 now. I started doing sales when I was 19, right? So I worked in my first software house where I was project manager. I still remember was doing web development for Procter and Gamble. I was 21, and um, what was working then, it was simply we had the information, we knew how to do websites, we knew how a website should look like, we knew how the project of a website should go. So we had the power, the sales guys, the sales guys had this information. But nowadays, because the content got so overwhelming, then you had so many ads, so much information, you don't need yet another guy calling you and telling you that you are having the best product or service ever, because you hear this all the time. So what I think we are starting to shift on is this more expertise. So we want to talk more and more to doctors, right? Like to the specialist. We want to talk to that laryngologist. You don't want to talk anymore to the how you say it, important, the generalist, the GP, right? So because you already have this GP information online, but the very specific specialized information on the laryngologist, you don't have it. You need to meet with that specialist. And this is what's happening also in the tech industry. You want to be involved and you want to be surrounded by the specialist.
Yeah,
And
thought
this is why
leadership.
exactly, this thoughtful leadership. And another thing that I learned this year, that really worked in B2B, is that if you don't have that expertise, then start networking and get people into webinars, into podcasts, into interviews, and put experts in a spotlight. And this way you will get the traction. And in if we talk about B2B marketing, you will get the people wanted to listen to you only because you are known for bringing specialists in at the table of discussions, of webinars, or you name it. Like throughout all these years, this is the one strategy that we had, bringing specialists, not necessarily us being those specialists in few fields, but also we would specialize in something. And I think in 2021, this would be a huge thing. Like again, brand awareness and specificity. Like you need to be specific to the brands that you go after. This spray and pray will not work anymore, and it's just waste of time in my view. And those companies will win who know how to do that niche, and who are specialists, right? So I think that's my take on this. Great, guys. If you guys have any last words or anything, let us know. Tom, Yulia, Przemek, thanks a lot for this.
Thank
It
you.
was
Happy New
great.
Year.
Pleasure.
Happy New
Happy New
Year.
Year, guys.
And if you have any type of recommendations for webinars or what we do here in Man Digital, we are more than, or you want maybe to talk about the particular topic, or you want us to invite someone, please let us know. We keep in touch, and thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.